And welcome, my friends. Today we will be looking at No One Survived and how to set up a local dedicated multiplayer server, which was just actually launched by the developer to the rejoicing of a lot of the fans who have been waiting for a dedicated server so you don't have to start a multiplayer hosted server within the game, which can be a little bit troublesome because it means that you have to have the client running at all times. So I'm going to show you how to get it downloaded, how to get it set up and run and configured so that you can actually play with your friends hosted on your PC or your server, depending on how you have it on your network. The slight downside is that you do need to use SteamCMD in order to deploy it to your PC or your server. It would have been easier if it was available as a tool in your Steam client, such as, you look at other servers such as 7 Days to Die, you can actually do that, but here you have to use SteamCMD, which is a little bit more troublesome. They do have some pretty good instruction set of how to get this done. I didn't have too many problems. I had a little bit of problems connecting to it, but I'm going to walk you through it. The first step is to create a folder, download SteamCMD, unzip it, and then run it because it needs to install and update itself. You click the link, and I will provide the main link in the description of the video so you can go and have a look at that one. When you click that, it will ask you where to actually save it down on your PC. So just save it down somewhere. I have it in my C and SteamCMD location, and you save it down. It will look like something like this, where you have the zip file and you can just extract that. If you don't have 7-zip installed, which is of course free, you can just use whatever zip is available in Windows, so it's not an issue. Right click it and unzip it. And what I'm going to do is basically 7-zip, I'm going to extract here and get everything extracted. And then we're going to run steamcmd.exe. What does that do? It'll basically grab all the files that are needed from Steam and download it. And you can see that in the background here as well. It's populating this folder with all the SteamCMD libraries and configurations and everything. So you can actually install games through it, and that's it. Next thing to do is just to create a folder. And this is going to hold the actual No One Survived server files. So create that one there as well. Now, since we're already in the SteamCMD, it's actually easy. You do force install dir for directory and // no one survived server / like that. It basically tells it that when you're installing something, make sure it goes into this directory. Now, if you happen to close that, then you can open up another command prompt. And I'm going to go SteamCMD, and you end up in the same location, and then you run SteamCMD and like that, and it'll go through the checks, etc., etc. So you can do that as well if you happen to close the original window that you had when you install things. I'm just going to close that out because I only need one. Next step is to log in, because you do need to log in anonymous. You need to log into Steam in order to download things. You don't have to actually log in with your usual ID. You can, but usually that means you have to get a 2FA, etc. to get that done. So anonymous is the easiest and best way to do that. And just wait a little bit and it will confirm. Then we're going to do app update. And that basically means, well, it's going to grab an update, which is the game. And then you have to provide a number 2329680, which corresponds to the No One Survived server. And if you type that in correctly, it will start downloading it to the folder, the No One Survived folder that we had previously forced it to install into. And here it says, success! It's been fully installed. So we're going to quit out because we no longer need that. Now what we're going to do here is, so we have the No One Survived server, which is where the server is, and look like this. This is the important shortcut to start the actual server. We're not going to run that yet. You can access properties, and you'll see it should have -server -log. Actually signifying that it's a server and that it should log things down. If it doesn't, just add that on because it should. It seems to be there by default now anyway. And then we're going to go down in here, WRSH, saved, config, Windows Server. And the important thing we're looking at here is the game ini file. So I'm going to access it with Notepad++. So you can do with Notepad if you don't have that installed. I do recommend Notepad++ because it's really good and easy to use. It just makes some of these things a little bit simpler. It has the game settings that you want to have into your game. You don't really have to play around with these ones if you don't want to. I'm just going to do my test save just to change the save name. I'm also going to have a VED is testing just as a server name, because you need that in order to actually find the server, and I'll show you that in a bit. We're going to put true for need password, and for password we're going to put 12345 just so it's easy to remember, and save that file. Now we have that. I'm going to minimize it. I'm going to go up again to the No One Survived server location. And I'm going to run this No One Survived server start. Double clicking it should start the server up slowly. As you can see, there'll be a lot of things here that are occurring. There might be some warnings and some errors. Again, it's just that it's loading, it's trying to figure out what's available on that PC. Normally, if you haven't messed up any of the config file, everything should start just fine, and it says server create, and that basically means everything is fine. If you're seeing some weird errors here that you can't figure out, try not to edit the file, because that's often usually what breaks. Is they download it, they get the server installed, and then they start playing around with the config file, the game init file, and then they mess something up, and then the server refuses to start up because it thinks that you've done something wrong. So the server should be running here. So we're going to go into the game. See, we're here in the game. We're going to select the multiplayer. And this is where I had a little bit of an issue. So you have to create a character, doesn't matter what it is, just to confirm so you can actually get into the game. So I'm just going to confirm here. And you don't normally the first time join a multiplayer game. When you do that, it basically tries to go to public servers somehow, or hosted servers in the client. So what you have to do, you have to select private server. The first time you do that, it will say that, hey, I need to reconfigure and you need to restart the client. Just accept that, let it exit out, and then start the game again and come back to private server. Then the second time, it should show up your server, and you see here video is testing, so you can actually find it. Now I have opened the firewall, and I'm going to show you how to do that if you have any issues with it, so bear with me. But I'm just going to show you that this is actually working. Select that one and join in, and it'll ask me for the password, which was 12345. Confirm. You see it's loading, and here you go. Naked person has entered the world, and I'm now playing on the server that I just set up. Simple, right? Now, usually people also run into issues with port forwarding. In order for servers to show up properly and people to be able to connect, you need to ensure that you're port forwarding. What does that mean? Well, think of it this way. You're sitting at home on your PC. You also have a local network, your LAN, your local area network, which is basically your PCs or multiple PCs, a handphone, etc., that is connected to your router, which could have a wireless router, it could be a router with a hub, etc. But basically, the box that is connected to your ISPs, so your phone companies, etc., your fiber providers, their network that is then connected to the internet. Now, for someone else, let's say your friend sitting in a different city, for them to connect to your PC, they basically access it through an IP, which is just a unique number on the internet. However, that will only hit that box that is between you and your ISP, your internet service provider. Now, for that one to forward all that to the server that is running on your PC, you basically need to specify that, hey, traffic that is coming on these ports should be sent down to this PC. So in this case, this is my PC is running on 192.168.1.103. And this is where the server is. This is my PC, and the server is obviously running on the same PC. So by specifying this here, 7777 and 27015, both UDP, because it's TCP and UDP, do both. Basically says that any traffic that is hitting these ports on my router coming from the internet should be transferred to this specific PC, the 103 PC, which is then running the server, so that it's actually being sent to the No One Survived server. Now, port forwarding can be a pain if you've never done it before. Once you've done it once or twice, it's similar almost the same for all the different games, multiplayer games that you are using, especially survival games with servers. So once you've done it, once you've gotten it figured out, you probably will be able to do it the same way for other game servers that you're running. It'll be different ports, but the general way it works is the same. If you've never done it, the problem is that there are a lot of routers out there and a lot of brands and a lot of models, and they each work differently. This is the D-Link that I'm using right now, and this is how it looks for here. Yours will look different. It'll be the same general functionality, but it will look different. The best way of figuring that out is to, well, it logs out apparently, is to look for your manual, check port forwarding in your manual, do a Google search, and read what it says of how you do it on your specific user interface in order to set up the port forwarding. When you set up the port forwarding, it means that friends will be able to connect in properly. The server will show up properly as well in the listing, which means that you can connect and other people can connect as well. If you're curious about what all the settings mean, there's actually a listing of that as well. They're pretty straightforward just based on the name, but there is an explanation of what they do, such as, the save name, server name, of course, if you need a password, zombie attacks and the run strength and zombie strength and the whatever numbers and everything that you have there as well. So have a look at it as well. It's at least pretty good if you want to just tweak it a little bit, maybe make it a little bit easier, maybe it'll make it a little bit harder as well. You can do that. I would definitely suggest having a password so you don't have randoms coming in just destroying things, at least if you're just playing with friends. And hopefully this shows how easy it is to get a dedicated local server up and running for you to play together with your friends. If you're having any issues as you go through all this, I would suggest that you go to the game's Steam discussion forum and post your errors or your questions there, because they have a lot of people who are helping, providing information, who can provide some feedback, who might have run into some of these issues. Personally, when I did this the first time, I got the server up, but I couldn't figure out how to actually log into my own server because it wasn't showing up. And that was a step that I had to select the private server and have the game restart before my server would actually show up, because it's a different listing, and I found that information in the forum. So they're pretty good at providing some general help. But fortunately, that was the only problem I ran into, and then it's been smooth. So good luck, people. If you've enjoyed this guide, why not hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with your friends so they also can figure out how to set up a server.